Um, Hello, good evening. It's March 2022. Um, I'm going to just be documenting or talking about my dreams that I've been documenting for the last 11 years. I started documenting them in May of 2010. At the time, I was living in St. Paul, Minnesota. So I still document them today, but they're not as many. So I'm just gonna read to you, and then the dream, and then I will give you kind of more information from what I remember of the dreams, and of just anything that I remember. Sometimes when I'm reading this, more information comes. I see more information, and so um, the first one is at the Crossroads. Um, I was with others traveling. I got stuck next to a guy that I didn't like or trust. Then I got off this bus with a black girl. We started walking down a dirt path on a hill. I came to a crossroads. We could have taken an easier path, but we took a path that was a little out of the way, but led to the same destination. Um, this black girl decided, and I said, all right. I told her she was nice. She was trying to get to Hidden Ball, and I asked if it was near a big city. She said yes. Then she took a picture of a train going by. She didn't tell me which city, but told me, I thought you wanted to come. She was going to see her family for an event or holiday, and it seemed like I was going with her. I was planning to personally go to housing authorities. Okay, so when this dream happened, I think that the housing authorities I was going to go to was the ones in Florida. I don't know. I never met this girl, but I do remember that she was an African American girl, and I told her she was a nice girl. So I remember traveling, and I remember being on on a bus or a train or something, and there were about 4 or 5 different people with me, and there was this guy that I didn't like, that was in the group. I didn't like him and I didn't trust him. But then sometimes I wonder if maybe that's why I left and was in this group, is because I didn't trust or like this guy. Um, and this African American woman, I remember physically walking down a dirt path. I'm sure it was just like metaphorically. So whatever, we were just gonna go to visit her family, I think. And I was going to go with her, and I was going to go to these housing places, and she was going to go visit her family. She's like, well, I thought you wanted to come. So it was basically kind of a version of the original plan, but it would have had the same results. And it says I was trying to get to Hidden Ball. So what I think that meant was, I think because I was told one time that uterine polyps are kind of like marbles. So I think, and I've had a couple uterine polyps, and I've had 2 of them removed. But anyway, so I think that there was something hidden about that procedure, or something medically. That's all I can think of. So I don't know what that was about exactly. Um, so the next dream is HedgeHog Supervisor, and that's June 10th. There was a guy zooming around like Sonic the Hedgehog, and he was causing problems, and then the hedgehog burnt up. I asked someone, are you sure he won't come back? And the guy said yes. Then the manager told this blonde haired girl with a ponytail, he's not coming back. Then she was passing out brand new underwear and bags to people as a present. One person was me. I was next in line. There was not other people around in the totes. Then I was in an attic of older house, 4 beds, no bedding, just plain second, but didn't like area for some reason. Okay, so whatever, there was this job in the dream that I was working at in retail, and I remember this guy, Hedgehog, he was kind of like, he would move physically fast, and he was just causing problems at his job for other people. I don't know, not personally for me, but I think just in general. And so whatever, he left. I don't know if he got fired or what happened to him, but he left. So, and then I asked the manager there, is he coming back? And he wasn't coming back. So, I'm thinking Hedgehog, he's fast, but then maybe it happened fast. So then in the dream there was this girl who had long blonde hair and her hair was in a ponytail, and we were both on the sales floor, and they have those tubes or those kind of totes, those large totes that you put in that the merchandise you have and you put it on the floor. Well, anyway, so she gave me a present and I was next in line. It was like underwear, I don't know what it was, but basically that was it was going to be put on the sales floor. So I'm assuming it was like a present, a gift. I'm not for sure what gift it was. You know, a lot of these dreams don't even come true. Some of them do, like bits and pieces here and there. But I spent quite a bit of my life trying to dodge a lot of destruction, actually. So anyway, so the next one is Girl in Photograph. June 26, 2010. I was walking somewhere, and then I was with two people, and I had a big responsibility. After there was a little break, and I was with two other people somewhere, and I saw a photograph of a picture of a girl who looked just like me. It was a school picture of me that I didn't know I had. I didn't see it. Then it showed the girl moving around before taking the picture. The next part, she was with the baby and she was posing for a picture. Okay, so I remember this dream. This dream was like I was with these two guys. Okay, and one was an African American man, and another one was a white guy who had blonde hair. And we were kind of by a swamp. So so what was supposed to happen was that someone was supposed to give me a job. After like a small break, I was going to be given a chance for a job, and it was going to be a big responsibility. And I think that this girl, who she physically looked like me, but we were in the same position, and I think that she went on maternity leave or whatever. So and so so that's why I think that, I was, basically, when she was going to be gone, I was going to do this, kind of take her place until she came back or whatever. That's what I think was going on in the dream. And I do remember the picture. There was a picture of a photo that she looks just like me. So I have quite a bit of dreams where the girl, or there's somebody who looks just like me. So I think sometimes it's just somebody who's in, it could be somebody who's in a similar situation. Okay, so, and I think that this might have been, for some reason I was thinking of Louisiana, but it could have been Florida, but I'm not sure. But for some reason I'm thinking Louisiana. I've never been to Louisiana, so I don't know. The next dream is shopping at the woman's thrift store. And I was in a place, and the person who I was staying with, briefly, some girl didn't want to stay because of a couple of reasons, which is like every town. She was at a clothing store, and someone said size 18, and I thought it was too big, and it looked like a size 12. I didn't find a shirt that I liked somewhat, like a blouse. Didn't think I was going to find a whole roll. It was a used clothing store. There was some girl assisting me, light in store. Anyway, so I think that this was basically, I was working at a retail store, and I remember one thing that I remember about working there is that they had a huge, large window, and that there was all the sunlight coming in. That's what I remember most about the dream. And then there was a girl who reminded me of a former manager, supervisor, or whatever. She kind of looked like her. And so, I don't know, some girl didn't want to stay for whatever reason. So I don't know for sure what this was about, size 18, and it says size 12. I think at the time it might have been a size 12, but so I don't know what this was about, or why there's a reference to these sizes in the dream. That's something I never really understood. Listen to my heart. This is in June 2010. I was walking kind of fast, and I was in a year's lease, and at the 1 month point, I said, I want to go to Seattle. So what I remember about this dream is that I just moved into this place. I think I signed a year's lease, and I was like walking around barefooted on, it was hardwood floors. And I was just pretty determined or whatever. It's like I didn't really, I think I signed a year's lease, but I didn't really want to be there. I wanted to go to Seattle. And this is 2010, actually. Eventually, I did end up in Seattle. But I just remember that it was like I didn't want to be in this year's lease. I wanted to go to Seattle, and for whatever reason, that didn't pan out. So I think that I was just there. Um, the next one is Stray Dog and the Cockroach. Now this one's kind of interesting. I kind of like it. I was at this place. I was actually like a huge warehouse. In the back room, they reduced my hours, and I didn't even care if I was there. There was cockroaches that were small that grew larger. I tried to get rid of them, but they kept disappearing. The Mexican woman said to let the guys take care of it. Then there was this bug with claws, and a guy put it in his pocket and walked out of the bathroom. Well, actually, it wasn't a bathroom, it was a warehouse. Then I was in a condo-like, and I had a neighbor, and there were two statue dogs. One was brown, and the other was white. There was high dirty water up to the windowsill. I was responsible for the brown dog. I asked the neighbor if that was your dog or whatever, the whatever, the plastic things. So yeah, I was working. I was all by myself, and I was working at a warehouse in the back room. It was a very large warehouse. I don't even know what I was doing, or what I was doing there for work, but I remember I was by myself, and there was there was this. It was kind of bizarre, but there was like like a cockroach would be right in front of me, and then it would grow in size, and then it would go smaller, and poof, it would disappear, right? So I think I told somebody about it, and somebody said, well, let the guys take care of it. But it was kind of bizarre because there was like a table, a wooden table, and that I remember seeing that either the right or the left side of me. It happened like a couple of times. And then there was this guy, he was kind of an old school guy, and for whatever reason, this was bizarre because he took this like lobster, wasn't alive that I know of, and it was, it was too big to put in his pocket, but I don't know why in the dream he put it in his pocket, because it'd be too big, so it doesn't really make much sense. But so he did that. So he stole something. Okay, he had to, because I don't know what else it could be, and I don't know why it would be. Maybe it had was a company with seafood or lobster. I have no idea. This dream did not come to pass. So that's all I can think of is he pocketed something. He had to steal something, but I was right there, and I saw him do it. So I don't know. It was just kind of strange. Okay, so the next dream is Sandcastle Contest. This is in August of 2010. I was dreaming about staying at my friend's place and her husband's. Then I heard the word leave. There was a girl whose relatives died tragically, so she and her siblings, girls, got their clothes and weren't supposed to tell anybody. They buried the clothes in plastic. Then there was some kind of contest she was in, and she needed money, and some old guy gave her an envelope and a brown package with money. Lots. She was by herself. I was at my oldest brother's place. This movie, the evil people turned good. Couldn't tell the difference between the good or bad people. So I was staying with a high school friend and her husband. And then I heard God tell me or whatever, it came in a thought, leave. So I was supposed to leave. So then there was, I have cousins and they're all girls. And it said that her relative died tragically. So, and they were supposed to put all her clothes and not tell anybody and put them all in plastic. Well, there was something that happened with my aunt who passed away 2 years ago. But before this, she was in a fire. So when, this is just a couple years ago, or maybe 4 years ago that this happened with this fire. And so this was in 2010. So I'm kind of wondering if they put the clothes in plastic because of the smell of the fire. I have been on a fire before, not like literally. I came home from work. I was working third shift, and I came home, and me and my roommate lived on the second floor, and I came in there, and there's a big, huge hole in the living room. But I remember like it was early in the morning that I would get home, like I don't know, 6:30 or whatever, and I remember seeing the side of the house, and it was like I was on a corner. I was like, that looks kind of weird. So I go in there, the whole first floor is just gone. So yeah, so that's what. And I remember that I had a leather jacket, and the leather jacket it smelled like smoke. I think I had to get it dry cleaned, but things smelled. So anyway, So anyway, so there was like something of money that I was in, or something that I needed money for. And so I was in this contest. I don't know why I would be in a sandcastle contest because I don't really, well, I don't really sculpt. I mean, I know in the Midwest I used to go to a couple of sandcastle contests, which not contests, but they would used to have like the sandcastles, and so those were pretty cool. So anyway, it was some kind of contest. I needed money for something, and some guy, some old guy, I remember being on the beach working with the sand, and he came by me and he handed me just a, one of those 4x6 envelopes, brown, full of packet, like lots of money. And I don't know how much or why I needed money in the dream. So, and I remember this part. This was kind of bizarre and kind of weird, but so I remember that it was kind of strange because I couldn't tell the difference between the good people and the evil people. Like I thought somebody was a good person, but then they would turn evil, and then vice versa. So I couldn't tell the difference on who. I just felt like I could. There wasn't anybody I could really trust because they would just change like a chameleon. So that was kind of weird. Okay, so the next dream is California or Florida. There were three guys talking to my youngest brother, and they were ignoring me. And left me there. So I had to decide. I didn't care. I had to decide on San Diego, a lot of light coming from there, or straight down to Florida. In San Diego, I was shown 11,002 for an apartment, and saw 250. Expensive. Had a roommate. She was Spanish or Mexican. Not sure. She started being confrontational in Spanish. I was surprised that I didn't respond to it. I am not for sure why I wasn't shown straight down to Florida. Okay, so there was two opportunities. Okay, for a while I tried to get into California housing, but I have, for like a long time, I don't know, 5 years, but it's just, it's hard to get in. I mean, housing years ago was hard, but now it's even harder. So I just got tired of waiting or whatever, and so there was, I think, but San Diego, the housing there, you can't get into San Diego housing unless you live in San Diego. So there's no way I could afford that. And so when I applied for San Diego housing, they just, told me that you're going to be on the list forever. So, when I did apply, I never, been to San Diego. I have been to San Diego, not recently, but after this. And I did like San Diego. So in the dream, I had two options: San Diego to Florida, and then I felt like there was a lot of light coming from San Diego, and I felt like I was supposed to come there or go there or whatever. And so I ended up having like a Mexican or Spanish roommate, and she was very confrontational. I remember her just like standing there in the front room. Just kind of bitching me out a little bit because it's like, well, it sounded like there was a housing opportunity that came up and I didn't take it for whatever reason. I don't know where it was or whatever. But anyway, I just remember that. It was like, so anyway, so I had a Mexican or Spanish roommate. And so, yeah, so that's kind of what happened. But I think in the dream I was hoping for Florida. I lived in Florida for like 6 months. I loved it there. I missed it for 10 years. So that's kind of what my options were in September 5th. And then, well, at the time, a couple months later, I did end up in Florida. That's what it says here. Leave in September. I was going to give my furniture to my mom. And then at 2 p.m., I left on a bus. I got on the trolley and walked to the back, but ended up in front. Before I got on the bus, this guy got on the bus. I'm looking for my youngest brother, and he isn't there. He's not going. So this is one thing that's kind of bizarre is my mom passed away in 2002. So I would, like, for years, like 5 years, I would still have dreams about her. So sometimes, I would like see her in a dream or whatever. She rarely ever talked, but sometimes I wonder if it's like a mother figure. But anyway, so I was going to move, and I was going to give a mother figure, my furniture. And then I left on a bus. Then I went on a trolley, so that's in Florida. And so my youngest brother wasn't coming with me, which is kind of odd because when I did end up in Florida, they did have a trolley, but my brother was there with me for like 6 months. And so eventually, that's kind of what happened with that. Old friend, October 2010. My former friend was isolating in his own place, and I was like, I forgot about him, and I went and I gave him a hug. Then he said something, and I couldn't remember. Then I was calling housing places. Actually, one was Homer. I talked to a lady. I guess there was an opening or upcoming, so I didn't mail her my new address. She said it was quiet and had bus service, and I said, thank Jesus. Okay, so yeah, so whatever. It sounds like I forgot about my friend. He's not my friend anymore. We kind of had a falling out, but that kind of happens. But he was a friend for a long time. And so anyway, so whatever. I gave him a hug in the dream. And I was calling housing places. I was calling Homer. Well, I had this one prophetic word, and this one woman said the word Homer. Um, but I think it was Homer, like pigeon, like message. Be a message, to have a message, like tell my story. I don't think it was Homer, Alaska. Even though for the longest time I did want to go to Alaska, I still kind of do. But anyway, so it sounds like that there was an upcoming apartment, and so I wasn't gonna give her my new information because I sounds like I was staying someplace shortly, or Then I remember being on the phone with her saying that she said that they had bus service, and I said thank Jesus. I remember saying that to her on the phone. Unexpected guess. Um, October 15th, 2010. I had a dream that I was looking at a 2-bedroom and a 1-bedroom public housing place and decided on a 1-bedroom. My youngest brother was with me then. I was in my place and a couple of women came and I guess inspected the place, stuck up, and I didn't know they were coming. Then my friend, she came and knocked on the door and it was all dressed up. And I gave her a hug and told her I wish she could stay. And I think that her husband and some girl was there. Whatever, her husband didn't want to come. So I was with my youngest brother, and I remember us going and looking at apartments, and there was a 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom. I don't know why I would be looking at a 2-bedroom, but anyway, so I decided on the 1-bedroom, and then they came to inspect the place. And I think that the woman might have resembled my high school friend, or it could have been the same name. Sometimes that happens when I have dreams. It's like, have a dream of someone I know, but it might be the person for the same name, or physically resembles the person that I'm dreaming of. So anyway, I didn't know they were coming, but they came to inspect whatever, and I guess they were kind of snobby, kind of stuck up. And I don't know where this was at, actually. And then her husband didn't want to come. So, I mean, it had to be in the Midwest. I don't think they would come all the way to anywhere else, really. So they changed actress, October of 2010. I had a dream about a character from a show. There are people in the show that think they're better than her, possibly better looking than she was planning with the baby daughter, and asked with which one. I preferred the daughter or relative's baby boy wrapped in clothes and sleeping. Also, I heard she has changed a lot. It didn't seem to bother her on what people thought of her. So, the change actress, yeah. So I remember this. It was for a housing or an apartment or whatever. And there was a lady there that in the dream who thought that this other girl was better looking than me. I mean, this is, 2010. There's always going to be somebody who's better looking than you, smarter, younger, more, more schooling, more something. If you have favor, you do. If you don't have favor, then you don't. So she was kind of like, she thought this other girl was better looking than me. So she was kind of a snob and to me. So I think this girl had a baby. So she just had a baby girl. And so it was kind of a preference thing. So this woman, she changed and she didn't really seem to care what people thought of her now. So, correct info. I was trying to get a hold of my mom. It was current address and phone. So I was calling over and over, got phone number, address, Once saw her thinking about canceling in 5 days. Later dream I was with my mom and said something about 3 months. So whatever, I was trying to get to hold of somebody, and they didn't have my correct address and phone number. I changed my phone number quite a bit because there's a lot of harassment, people getting hold of my information and sending me texts, um, stalking. Um, so I was thinking about canceling in 5 days. I don't know what I was thinking about canceling. I don't remember. I don't know. So, prophetic word dream. Now, this dream is October 2010, and this is one of my favorite dreams. This uh, is actually, an actual prophetic word. We went to this place. The place was a church, and this one lady wasn't going to do a prophetic word, but I asked her, and she said, "You already know this, or you should know this. Homer, Alaska," which I just mentioned. And I looked surprised. I told them that I thought it would be somewhere in Florida. I was hoping it would be. The lady actually pointed to Washington. I told them that housing list was another year, and that one lady mentioned something, and I couldn't hear her. So I told my youngest brother we can both go, that just being separated from each other some distance, I told him I'm supposed to go to Washington and you're supposed to go to Florida. Then we were at a restaurant bar and I couldn't find my wallet, and my youngest brother left me there. I couldn't find him. I said to myself, maybe Homer has a bunch of artists there. Then a group was watching some movie, and I said, I thought I seen this movie before. A woman was in it, and it eventually ended years later, the same, not tragically, taken much longer. So, um, yeah, so yeah, basically, like I was saying, I don't know, I just can't get comfortable. Um, some woman gave me a prophetic word, and she wasn't, she's like, well, you should know this, and it's Homer. And like I mentioned, I don't think it was Homer, Alaska. I think it was Homer, like in a pigeon and a message. And she mentioned Washington, and I did eventually end up in Washington like 6 months later, 6 or 7 months later. Um, and I was hoping it would be Florida. So, I was in Florida at the time of the dream, I think. Um, and I said, well, for me to get in there, it's another year. But like I said, if you got favor, you got favor. I mean, you could be on a housing list for years and years and years, and some people can be on it for a year, and then boom. So whatever, I said, I guess I was going to go to Washington, and my brother was supposed to stay in Florida. But I think that at the time, we were in Florida together for like 6 or 7 months, and I ended up in Washington, and he didn't stay in Florida. He left me there as usual. He went to, I think he went to Charlotte, North Carolina after this. But yeah, so he has a tendency to like, and I don't do this anymore with him, but he's like, oh, come on here. And then he leaves my ass there, which, by the time he leaves, it's like, well, thank Jesus. But it's just the point that I don't have a hell lot of money, and he never, he doesn't really give me much money or whatever. He did help me out one time when I stayed with him, or for a little bit anyway, but still, I was usually end up by myself wherever I am. Um, Whatever, and it says I couldn't find my wallet, so it sounds like something was going on with the finances. And then Homer has a bunch of artists. Well, yeah, I think I heard that Homer is like that. Um, but I think it's kind of hard to get there. I've tried to go to Anchorage, but it's just so expensive with everything to go to what is it? There's a park out there that I've been wanting to go to, and it's just higher than a kite to everything. Denali, I think that's it. Um, and I do remember this. It's like, okay, there was a dream. Basically, the dream or the situation ended, the movie ended 2 years later, the same, not tragically. Well, that never happened. It was supposed to happen. And I think it was probably a job, but I don't know. There's nothing in here about a job, but I don't know what that meant exactly. Go east. Okay, so I was supposed to go to Seattle, and I went east instead. I had a dream of my mom, and she changed. And I told her, this is October, you're my mom, you're supposed to care. Then my relatives in Colorado told me she was too needy. There was a guy who had me in a stronghold, and I didn't like him. You ate my food, and he wouldn't let me go. I told him I could have done cleaning or slept on the floor. I pried myself away from him. So, yeah, I was supposed to go to Seattle, and for whatever reason, I went out east instead. Um, so the dream, it's similar to that. There was a mother figure, and she changed. I just talked about her, and said, well, you're my mom. Mother figure, you're supposed to care, but she didn't care anymore. It was a mother figure, wasn't my actual mom. So then I remember living at this house. I don't know if I was like renting a room or what I was, but I remember being at this house. And this guy, I would just do some work to kind of pick up the yard. And so he had me in a stronghold. And he was like, I said, well, I could have done this or this or this. And I eventually pried my way away from him. I don't know where this was at in the dream. I don't know where this is at. Okay, hospital visit. Like I was in a hospital. It was like a dorm, November. He used a public place to go into the internet. Then I was on computer and monitor screen kept changing. Something opened in middle of reading. Medical clips, man with blood head diseases. Then I said, hey, that's my brother's computer. So, yeah, at the time I was living in Florida and I had the internet. And somebody hacked into the computer. It was my brother's computer. And I just remember that somebody hacked in there, but I had a dream of being on a web page and then something opened up. Like there was like a picture of like a brain or all this medical stuff. I did live right next door to a nurse and a former, I think the guy used to be in the Marines. Um, so, so I was like, hey, that's my brother's computer, because it was his computer, but I was, doing the internet. So, adopted a girl. There was a man who adopted a girl. She was about 5 or 6 and happy-go-lucky. He picked her up at the airport, it seems. He said it was affordable for $3. The man held the little girl's hand as she exited the plane. When I woke up, exactly at 3. So something about 3, the third, the 3 months, whatever, March. I just remember this old guy. There was this girl that he picked up at the airport. This young girl. I don't know why she was by herself, but I'm thinking, and I really never thought about this in the dream. I just thought, okay, but I think that the girl, it wasn't her grandpa, even though he acted like a grandpa. So maybe, it was just kind of like a grandpa kind of figure, but I don't know why she'd be by herself. So anyway, small house, no, November 11th, back to school. November 9th, I was living in Minneapolis and going back to school, and I told myself I would never live in Minneapolis ever again. It feels like a different time, 1990s. This woman showed up at my place to help with school. I told her I hadn't been in school for 15 years. I said, I want someone who knows what they're doing because this is 15 years ago. Okay, well, I never went back to school, and I don't plan to go back to school. But in this dream, I was going back to school in Minneapolis, and so there was a woman who came to my door on the 15th to help me because I hadn't been in school for 15 years. So at this point, with my age, and it's a little more than the age too, is I put a lot of time in school, 7 years, like quarter time, and I never got a good job ever. I mean, it didn't do me any good, and even when I did work on and off for a while, it just didn't work because of whatever, my heart. I would have issues. Some of the job positions require fast speed, and I would be fast in some things, but other things I could not. So the schooling never got me anywhere. And now it's just, when I was in school, it was like $70 for one credit. Now it's, I think, like, I don't know, $300 for one credit. And it's just not worth it because I did 7 years, I did my time, and I got nothing. It got me nowhere. I'm not going to go and dish out money that I don't have. There's no way in hell that I would apply for student loans again. So, I just think it would be a waste. waste of time, waste of energy. And if 7 years isn't good enough, then the hell with it. That's how I feel about it. Um, okay, so November, 10 years back, I already talked to you in an email, name starting with K. There was one kind of military where one personnel in the bushes sitting with his, I don't know, and was hidden so you could detect no movement, not a flinch in the weeds. Something about, did you hear about those three people? Yeah, so I don't know. This is kind of a weird one because, and this is on the 11th, and it says 10 years back. I already talked to you in an email, name starting with K. It was some kind of military thing, and it was hidden, and some guy was kind of hiding in the bushes. Um, so I don't know who this K is or whatever. I've like throughout the years, I've kind of, you know, waited for some K person or whatever. Um, so, and then it says, well, did you happen to know those three people? So I remember some guy or whatever saying that, did you hear what happened to those three people? And at the time, I think there was not in Florida, but at the time there was a murder, some kind of bizarre murder that I really kind of spooked me. And the person killed like three people. So I just remember that. So this might be from watching that or hearing about that, even though it wasn't in Florida. Um, Small house. I was living somewhere. I was contemplating moving. I moved a little way down. Wasn't shown. I guess there was 12 properties. Wasn't shown. Houses. Talk about it. Saw a house later. Too small. So, so I think at the time, and this was like I had, and this actually it didn't happen, but I did eventually get the same um, manager that I at a property that I lived at. Whenever I lived in Seattle, the guy's name always started with D, and that was bizarre. But well, not that bizarre, but anyway. So I think that I did eventually end up there, and for some reason I was staying um, at his, I was at the property, and then I moved to a different location because something was too small or it was smaller. Just another property of the management. So, and that didn't happen, even though I did try a couple of times, but there was like, I don't know, three places that came up, and I did try to get into a couple of them. One lady, I called her and I said, well, I was in a lease or whatever, and then she called me back and says, well, you didn't want to take it or whatever. And I was having such bad dreams that, like, when I would talk on the phone, or I just sounded really effed up. I just sounded really out of it. And, I didn't really know, and I was in a legal lease, and I thought, well, I didn't really want to leave a legal lease. And so, but I did try a couple of them. And this one lady, I told her to call me back, and she's, was like, well, she lied and said, lied about it. So I didn't want to take the place, and I told her to call me back because I was on a legal lease. So in a loan, November 2010, I was living at this place with the same landlord I have now. I had a roommate, and the landlord mentioned to her about me moving out. She came in the morning, and I told her I wasn't moving. Then my mom was in this dream actually talking, and she went all the way to Minnetonka and asked my cousin how she got there. And my cousin said one of her neighbors brought her there to this place for people who have AIDS. So I was like, why was she staying in a place like that? My mom doesn't have AIDS, or, and my cousin said, no, my mom said my youngest brother did that to her, so went alone. She wasn't for sure if she paid, couldn't remember if electric bill was paid, tried to get a hold of landlord phone, went fuzzy, and then worked. I mentioned about just sending the electric bill. I told her I wasn't moving. She thought I was going to. Okay, so this is kind of just kind of continuance of the other dream that I just had. It sounds like, okay, I did move. I guess it sounds like I did move in with a roommate with the same landlord. So So I think that they were saying, "Were you going to move?" And I said no. And then it sounds like my cousin drove me to some place, or because I didn't have a lot of money, and that the place was for people who had AIDS, which really didn't make any sense. Um, or my mom was staying there, but yeah, it says my mom. But anyway, it's like, my mom was deceased by this time. But it was like, my cousin, I think it was me, my cousin drove me there. And I was staying at some place where people had AIDS, which didn't make sense because I didn't have AIDS. So I think they were just pawning me off because something was too small. My cousin said, no, my mom said that my youngest brother did that to her sewing alone. So there could have been something to do with money, and I was like pawned off to some house or something for people with AIDS, and or they wanted to because of some money situation. Um, but I don't know. I just remember my cousin driving me there too, so I think they were trying to get me to move. Um, Dream of church. I was at a church conference with my youngest brother, and I was to sit by two people, and one woman trusted me and assured my friend I did not trust me, but it looked at me suspiciously. Then I was told they don't trust you. Then I was shown a map of Seattle. Yeah, well, me and my youngest brother, we did go to this one church in Florida. I went to this other church by myself when he left. I can't remember the name of the church, but they weren't sociable to us. I remember that, some churches you go and they're like, they greet you and this and that, but they were kind of cliquish and kind of stayed to themselves. And I think that it was more families there, and, me and my brother, my youngest brother, that, it was just us. So, and, so in the dream it was real. They didn't trust me or whatever, and I don't know why, but, maybe because they were well to do or whatever. I wasn't, dressed all fancy or whatever. I don't know. And so then I was shown like Seattle or Washington, like a map of it. Um, New Mexico or Palm Springs, December 2010. There was another parade going on downtown. There was a black guy on this float, and he said New Mexico or Palm Springs. So this was all I remember about this dream, is that there was a guy, some African American guy, who was on a float, and he was going down, and I could see him, and then all he said was New Mexico or Palm Springs. That's all he said in the dream. So, Blown Up Man, December 2010. I was somewhere warm, modest weather, springtime. There was a long bridge like the one in Minneapolis. There was a blown up hard concrete man, huge, that was attached to these bridge by white cords. I didn't see his face, but went to go look at him. His back, there was a couple of college kids hanging out at the foot of the bridge. Okay. So yeah, I think that this is the Midwest, and this was weird because it was like a big, huge blow up, like the Thanksgiving Macy Days parade, one of those big, huge um, blow up kind of characters. But and it was a man though, and he was attached to one of the, like, this blown up man thing, huge thing, was like attached to a bridge, and I don't know why he was attached to a bridge, but he was attached by white cords. Um, and I didn't see his face, which means I didn't know him. And I'm wondering if this has anything to do with the IRS or some other legal issue. Because I don't know why he was so big, and why would he be attached to a bridge. Um, but not being able to see his face was, I didn't know him. And so this has to do with there was a couple of kids hanging out at the foot of the bridge. So this is like, I think this went back to the 1990s when I was in college. So it might have been something with that, regarding that, the student loans or something, I don't know. Discussion with niece, December 5th, 2010. I talked to my oldest niece and was talking to her about having a son, and was excited to meet her daughter since I never met her. Then I was talking to her about God. I told her that I read the Bible, can you believe it? And I was worshipped other gods, but you're not supposed to do that. She was around some ladies, so since I don't worship other gods. It must be Katie. I don't know. She didn't talk to me, only she said 22. So, yeah, so in the dream, I was talking to my oldest niece. I was talking to her about having a son, which never came to pass. I don't think I could have ever had kids because I've had two uterine polyps removed. And I had I don't know, a psychic tell me one time, she goes, well, did you ever have surgery? And it's like, yeah. She goes, well, you were pregnant. And so I don't know. I mean, that can kind of happen if you have a uterine polyps. The first thing they ask you was, were you pregnant? And I had no signs of it, being pregnancy. But I did have whatever, not normal periods or whatever, but anyway, she don't want to hear that. So yeah, her daughter. So like last year, I finally saw my oldest niece. Um, I haven't seen her since my mom passed away in 2002, and so it's been like 20 years. And I saw her daughter for the first time. She only has one daughter, but I didn't really talk to her daughter, nor was I introduced. But I never met her, so I would have dreams. I mean, sometimes her daughter's name starting with H. It could have been with that. And so I think that my niece goes to church, so she did go to church, and so I was just like saying, I worshiped other gods. I was in the New Age for pretty deeply for quite a while, but then I don't know, I kind of grew out of it. I went to this one church like, for like a couple years, but then I just felt like I just remember that one time, and this kind of offended me, that they would talk about all kinds of different, just anything and everything. And one time somebody got up in front of the podium and just had a Bible and just dropped the Bible, which I thought was very offensive to me, because people can worship whatever God they want, I believe. So I just was kind of offended by that, because they worshipped they had all kinds of theories and this and that, but So anyway, so I was into that for a while, but then some of the things, I just kind of grew out of it, I think, and some of the things I didn't really believe, like they would have, psychics, or, they would, pick things up, psychics, and some of that stuff is not always from God, I believe. Some of it can be and some of it can't be. A prophetic word is supposed to be from God, but if somebody else is, who knows where the source is coming from. And sometimes it can be right and sometimes it cannot. So I just think I just kind of grew out of it and thought, well, I don't know. I just kind of grew out of it. So anyway, yeah, so that was that dream. And then Hostel Conversation. I told this one girl I used to sleep on that bed by the window. There were 6 style hostel beds in the room. I told her that not many people have come through here. She didn't believe me. I went to the bathroom, and there was a toilet with new things by it. I saw some clothes hanging as I left the bathroom. So I don't know. I don't know why I was staying at a hostel. But I used to, of course, stay at hostels when I was younger because they were more affordable. But now I meant if I can afford, just a cheap hotel, then I'll do that. I'd rather just do that because, I really don't fit in. I'm older, first of all, and second of all. I'd rather just be by myself. It's just nice to be gone all day and do things, and then come back and just have your own space. I think that would be a lot, a good part of it. I mean, if, to share a room with one other person, but, 6 beds or whatever, if I do stay in a hostel, I always try to get like for New York, it's so expensive, right? So I always try to get the bed that is, with the room with the less bunk beds. Because I feel out of place. It's like, what's this older person doing here, and all these young kids, So that's just kind of part of it. But anyway, and I was saying, whatever, not a lot of people have come through here, which I don't know what that was about. She didn't believe me. And I don't know, it almost seems like I was kind of staying there for a little bit, which, in hostels, there's usually a maximum you can stay in, of course. They at the time they didn't have it where you couldn't go to a hostel if you were like so many miles away from the hostel or the same state. That's what they have now, but they didn't really have that. And most people would, they wouldn't go to a hostel in the same state anyway, unless it's like away from their home, whatever. So anyway, so the next one is crappy laptop. December 2010. Some guy passed out two old crappy laptops, computers. I got one of them. He gave them to me in a church van. Mine had my name on it. He said Minnetonka. I said, how did you know that? He didn't answer me. Then I left and went to my place, and a black guy was there, and I told him that it was for my eBay. So yeah, so in the dream, it was on a church van. The guy was African American, and I don't know. There might have been me and some other person in the van, but he had in me. I guess it was a donated laptop, and it was kind of crappy. But for whatever reason, I wanted it for eBay. So when I lived in Florida, I did. I mean, for something to do at night, I started doing cards. Because the trolley would stop at like 6 or 7, right? So I had something to do. I didn't have a TV for a very long time. I did have like the internet later, I think. But so I would do cards, and then I would try to sell them on eBay, which got me nowhere. I didn't really sell. They weren't real. I would just basically use these ink stamps or whatever, and then just color them or whatever with different. They weren't real, whatever. So I never really. They were pretty or whatever, but it never worked out, really. It wasn't that, great, compared to some other cards and whatever. And you can't really make a lot of money with that anyway. So only like a couple cards sold, and I just kind of saved them and would use them later to like kind of update information of housing places, just send them all. I had all these, cards. Symbolic Pregnancy. December. I was thinking about getting a dog. Went to go check out a Cocker Spaniel in someone's house. I couldn't have a dog because the dog was pregnant, so I had to wait. Then I said Seattle. I'm not for sure where I was at. I had to split in a couple of days, not aware of the environment. Yeah, so symbolic pregnancy. I was thinking about getting a dog. I've been a Cocker Spaniel. I had a Cocker Spaniel when the family did when I was young. I named it Peanuts. I couldn't have the dog because the dog was pregnant. So, but I think it was symbolic. I had to wait or whatever. And whatever, I had to split in a couple of days for whatever reason. I don't know. Heart surgery. December 2010, I was on my right side for surgery. Block wasn't coming out, so I wasn't for sure which side I was supposed to be on. I was frustrated and just went back to the same side. I was at this lady's house. I told her that I wasn't having any dreams. She advised me to write them down. I was talking to a friend of mine in Minneapolis, and I told her that I was going to take a bus to a store. Close. So I asked her to watch my stuff. I went to pick up something, but I couldn't find the grocery store. I had items in my hand, and I walked back into the store, hoping no one would notice. I was in a rush for some reason. Then I thought I'd rather go live with my aunt. She had to move out for being there for 8 years. Of course, she has been there longer. All right. So, yeah, so I remember this dream in which I just can't get comfortable. You notice it? So I was like just lying down. I was going for surgery, and I didn't know if I should be on the right side or left side. And there was some kind of blockage or the blood flow. My heart wasn't operating correctly. I do have a heart condition, bicuspid aortic valve, and I found out when I was 19 years old. So whatever, I don't know if it was surgery. Well, it says there was surgery. But there was like the blood flow wasn't going right. And I found this out, and I was never told this, but on the left side of my heart, it's enlarged. The right or left, I think it's the left side. Whenever I have issues, it's always the left side. Polyps, everything, it's always left side. Cancer, everything, left side usually. Anyway, so my friend was like, was trying to help me. She said, well, there's a different place you can go, a different store that's closer. So I'm thinking it was a different healthcare facility that was closer. Whatever, but it says here it's a grocery store. I had items and I walked back into the store. So yeah, I don't know why, and I was in a rush. Okay, so I don't know why I would walk outside the store with items in my hand and then go back in. I wouldn't do anything like that. I meant, I've always paid for everything, and I don't know what I had in my hand. I just my head, and it doesn't make any sense. And I was thinking, oh, I didn't think anybody would notice. Well, how can you not notice? It wasn't a really big store from what I remember. I'm not sure, but I wouldn't do something like that. So I think that there might have been something going on. This is December 14th, so whatever, something with money. I said, well, I'd rather just go live with my aunt. So that's kind of about it right now. I think that's enough. I'm gonna try to do. If you've made it this long, it's a miracle. But I'm going to try to do these. I have like a WordPress, and I have Anchor or whatever, and a Spotify, and I don't have like a lot, but I do have like videos, and I have a WordPress and a podcast. And so when I went back to try to add the podcast here, the videos, they wouldn't decode for whatever reason. I don't know why. So I just thought, well, why not? Nobody really watches this anyway, but I kind of like to document things. I mean, I've been doing the WordPress for over 10 years now. And so, anyway, so, well, if you have made it this far, then God bless you. So, anyway, it is kind of an unusual topic. I know these younger kids, they have all these skills as far as making videos, and they're with all their friends, but the older people, it's like, well, what do you videotape? I don't really have all kinds of money to go buy all this, the equipment, and I don't I don't really have anything that's like, I don't have a van I can go in and become, kind of like a vagabond, and I just don't have a lot of things, and I, live in the middle of nowhere, so there's nothing really going on. And I thought of cooking, but my cooking space is I like to do recipes. Cooking space is really small. But I don't know, I just like to document this stuff, because sometimes, years later, most of the stuff doesn't come true, but sometimes, like, years later, sometimes little pieces come true or whatever, just to kind of document it. So that's kind of the main reason why I do this, is to document kind of the dreams. And thanks again.